What is up, Spurs Nation? It's your boy Rob from BuckingSpurs.com. That's right. Hey, it's up. It's live. You can find all of our content there, the YouTube stuff, the podcasts. It's a work in progress, but it is up. So you can go to BuckingSpurs.com. I'm going to be having a shop there too where you can get some merch and also just some, San Antonio Spurs, San Antonio City themed ideas that I have that I'm gonna be putting on some stuff and I like to mess around with all that stuff too. So for Countdown City, it's on. So go check it out. So this episode of Drive-Thru Spurs Takes is about the first 2 days of media, of we're getting a post-practice media. So right away, let's talk about your boy Patty Mills. Patty Mills thrills. I'm not gonna dive too much into everything that's going on right now. I'm gonna really take a swim in it in the podcast, right? So we're gonna do a podcast later this week, coming out tomorrow, along with my first article, my article that I haven't written one in a while. But I felt like this is the year I'm going to dive back into writing, and I'm going to do a weekly report on whatever it is that I want. And because it's Bucking Spurs, and it's all me, baby, so I get to decide. And I definitely want to do my first piece on Lonnie Walker, our humble warrior. So stay tuned for that on Friday at BuckingSpurs.com, right? It's live, baby. But Patty Mills, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite pieces or quotes from each one of these media day, not media day, but post-practice interviews so far in training camp over the first 2 and 3 days. Patty Mills had one quote that I loved, and he said, yeah, well, we're really getting back to basics. Someone asked him if it's normal every day, year after year training camp, if we're doing anything, different, or is it more the same? He said, no, it's more the same. It's, it's pretty standard for a Spurs training camp. But when he said, it's all about going back to basics right now, that's just, to me, it's humbling, because it lets me know that the veterans in there aren't about skipping steps, and the veterans really want to get down and know that it takes time, and it's a process, and it takes stepping in the right direction. We're not just gonna run out the gates, and it all starts here in training camp. And Patty Mills saying that just knows how important it is to take it slow, and to know that it's going to take time, and you have to start on the ground floor and work your way up. Bryn Forbes came out after that, and he had a few interesting things to say. Bryn Forbes, what I want to talk about in this video is just what he said about DeJounte Murray. He said DeJounte Murray looks fast, and he's one of the fastest players that he's ever played with. Man, and I can't wait to see him on the floor. I think he's going to have a lot of fun playing with DeJounte. Saying that someone asked Bryn, hey, do you think people have forgotten what DeJounte can do? And Bryn came out and said, I don't even think y'all seen what he can do. And he started talking about his jumper being wet, that's money from 15 feet or 18 feet. And just, good God, man. So Bryn was very high on DeJounte. Then let's talk a little bit about Demarre Carrol. The one thing I want to talk about Demarre Carrol on this video is he talked about his defense in Atlanta. I want to focus in on that part of his whole interview, and that's because he talked about in Atlanta he feels that's when he was playing his best defense. And, well, in Atlanta, when he was there, he was playing under Coach Mike Budenholzer, right? So a former Spurs assistant coach, he even said it himself that, what Coach Bud did was a lot of what the Spurs were doing when he was here. So, and it was a team defense concept. And he said that, see, that's not everywhere. And what he says after this is really important to us, Spurs Nation, is that when he went to Toronto and then he went to Brooklyn, it's a lot of one-on-one defense, It's like, so he didn't really thrive in those settings. He said that his best years were when he played in Atlanta, so he's hoping to get back to that style of play and that level of competition by coming back to San Antonio in a similar team. And we know all about our team defense here in San Antonio. It's always going to be team defense first. It's always going to be team defense first. So he was like, yeah, he was really excited about being able to gamble a little bit more, get out in passing lanes, because he knows that his team has his back, and on the defensive end of the floor, and that's where it's most important. Then we got Lonnie Walker, my boy, Lonnie Walker, the humble warrior. I have so many nicknames for him. I wanted to call him Air Walker. I was like, nah, it's a little bit too much on the nose. Then I thought of the smooth criminal, because I feel like that depicts his game perfectly. But now I'm kind of on the mind. I'm kind of on the wagon of the humble our humble warrior, right? Because he really is. And I'm gonna get into Lonnie Walker a lot in the podcast and in the article. But one quote, I'll pull out one of the quotes that he said, and that's when he was asked about the athleticism of the guys in the gym, and he was just kind of like, man, it's exciting, it's insane that it's kind of like a new Spurs way that they're playing, that they're going to play with so much more pace and so much more tempo, and they're going to really be able to push it and push it in transition and really keep the defense on their heels, and they're going to try to get a lot more buckets in transition. And man, you put Lonnie Walker on the floor in transition, good God, it's almost a guaranteed bucket, man. It's almost a guaranteed bucket. Like if he has the ball in his hands, it's like, dude, like if he's the one bringing the ball down in transition, good God, man. And he can catch and shoot if he's the one running the floor. We'll see how good he is at catching it on the wing and making one move and getting to the rim. That's something that we haven't seen that I'm really looking forward to. But he was very excited, and he said a few things. He said, like, he was excited about the athleticism, not just now, but for the years to come. I think that he has a long-term view of what's going to happen to his career. He's not just thinking about the now. He's thinking of it as, if I do what I'm supposed to do now, I'm going to have a long-term career. If I trust the system, trust the Spurs, I'm going to have a long-term career. And so he's thinking about the future. He's thinking about DeJounte Murray, Derek White, and Bryn Forbes, and himself, along with Keldon Johnson, some of these young guys, as being the future of this franchise. And he very well can be that humble warrior. He can really lead us, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes some strides towards that role this season. I mean, he's not going to lead us this season, but he definitely is going to take another step in that direction, and then maybe next year he takes another big step in that direction. About 2 or 3 years from now, he might be one of our best players on the team, guys. Lonnie Walker, that smooth criminal. Okay, so next we had a couple of interviews that just dropped today. Keldon Johnson, Luka Samanic are 2 rookies, and then Jokab Poeltl. I haven't seen him yet, so I'm going to look at him right now, and then I'm going to get right back on this thing. All right, so here we go. Okay, I'm back, Spurs Nation, and I'm moving. All right, so let's talk about Jokab first. I want to get Jokab out of the way first. And I really liked what Jokab had to say about his matchup last year against Denver, and how he's learning from Timmy, right, from Coach Timmy right now. But he did let something slip a little bit when they were like, hey, they asked him about lineups. They're like, well, maybe we'll be able to get it out of Jokab, right? Is Derek White and DeJounte playing together? And he said, yeah, they are. And he just kind of made a face like, man, like they look dangerous. So maybe we're gonna see some of that, and of course they are, right? And it's not like we're expecting them not to, but it's interesting, and I wonder if. And he said that they've been mixing up the lineups a lot. To be fair, he's been playing a lot with LaMarcus, so we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But there's a lot I'm gonna be talking about definitely from Jokab in the podcast. So stay tuned. Make sure you check that out. And okay, so now let's talk about Keldon. Keldon kind of had this look on his face like he was over it already. Like he's not over it, but that he's not starstruck. And the first thing they asked him was if he had a pinch me moment, and he was like, nah, no, I'm here. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's basketball, and blah 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 blah. And they also asked him about Coach Timmy and having Coach Timmy. He's like, yeah, no, it's just, I know he was a great player and one of the best to ever do it, but no. And I mean, here, like, he just seems so about his business. It's not even fun. That was no fun. It was no fun watching Keldon. until they asked him, like, who are you on the floor? And he was like, just, energy, this and that. And they asked him what has the coaching staff, asked for him to work on. He was just like, everything, everything offensively, everything defensively. And just, they asked him about the amount of guards that are on the squad. And again, he said there's a lot of really good talent here and guarding. They asked him who's toughest to guard, and he was like, well, I don't know. They're all hard, but DeMar DeRozan's probably harder because he's really crafty with the ball, whatever. And so Keldon just kind of seemed like, I hate to say it, but prototypical Spur. You know what I mean? Like, just not into the media. One, not giving us anything to really chew on. Two, three, no like emotion. So I mean, he fits the mold, and we know he's a character guy too, and we know that he's here to compete. And he looked a little tired though. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I think he's really pushing himself in practice in these first few practices, and I think he's really trying to test the waters and push himself and see what he's capable of, and show that he's there for business and not for fun. So there's that too. Okay, so now let's talk about Luka a little bit. Luka was kind of the opposite of Keldon. Luka was like, oh man, my first game's coming up on Saturday and whatnot, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it and this and that. So they talked to him a little bit about how he's adjusting and he's putting on a little bit of weight, and they talked about the differences and similarities between Europe and the NBA. And so he's he talked a little bit about that, but he's also learning about the defense, and he's understanding that defense is the most important thing, and that if you mess up on defense, Pop's gonna call you out and all that stuff. But he seemed more excited to be here. I think this is all new to him. I mean, which reasonably so. He came from a different country. He doesn't know what the NBA is all about. Keldon does know what the NBA is all about. He is a product of Kentucky basketball, where they prepare you very well for the NBA, right? So, there's differences there, but it was just interesting to see. So all that are my first initial takes out of this first 3 days of practice from the media clips that we've been getting. Make sure you guys go to buckingspurs.com. It's active. Subscribe to the podcast, a Bucking Spurs podcast, and the YouTube channels. And make sure you check all this content out that I'm just so excited. We got a Lonnie Walker article dropping tomorrow. I'm very excited. Make sure to go to the page and to tweet it and all that good stuff, okay? There you go. I'm trying to open my gate. All right, so here we are, baby. Go Spurs, go. Go Spurs, go. Go Spurs, go. Preseason game on Saturday, baby. Let's get it.